Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wa mursaleen. Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma anfa'na bima 'allamtana wa 'allimna ma yanfa'una. Allahumma zidna 'ilman innaka anta 'alimul hakim. Allahumma ij'al hadhihi al-muhadara hujjatan lana la hujjatan 'alayna ya rabbal alamin. Amma ba'd. This is our 11th class in going through the book Zaad Al-Mustaq'ni from Imam Al-Hajjawi rahimahullah ta'ala. Today's class, inshallah, we're going to be discussing al-mashu ala khuffayn, wiping over footwear. So we're going to, a small introduction to it. This is a very important chapter. It's very important. Al-mashu ala khuffayn is permissible with the majority, if not all, the scholars of al-Islam in the past. Qala ibn Mubarak, he says, لَيْسَ فِي الْمَسْحِ عَلَى الْخُفَّيْنِ اخْتِلَافٌ إِنَّهُ جَائِزٌ. And there's no difference of opinion among the scholars of the past that wiping over the khuf. What is a khuf? Before we even finish that, what is a khuf? Does anyone know? A leather sock. Ahsant. A leather sock. All right? And we're going to talk about that in a little more detail as we continue. However, historically, from the scholars of al-Islam, from the past, there's no difference of opinion on the permissibility of wiping over the khuf. طيب. And Hassan, how many people heard of Hassan al-Basri? Do you know anything about him? Huh? One of the Tabi. طيب. He died in the year 110 Hijri. Right? He was reared, if you will, by Salama. Salama was who? One of the wives of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. Okay? So, even he was born 2 years before the end of the Khilaf of Umar ibn Khattab, to the point that Umar ibn Khattab made dua for him. So, in that, قال الحسن al-Basri rahimahullah ta'ala, he said, حدثني. Now this is important why I'm mentioning this so you can hear what he says right now. He says, حدثني سبعون من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم مسح على الخفين. He said, I was informed by over 70 companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to wipe over his khuf. Wipe over his khuf. Al-aslu fihi ma rawa al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. So they use this hadith on Mughira ibn Shu'bah to show the permissibility of wiping over the socks, or over the khuf, if you will. So he says, قال كنت مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم في سفر. He said, I was with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam while he was traveling. فَأَحْوَيْتُ لِأَنْزِعَ خُفَّيْهِ. And I tried to remove his khuf so I could wash his feet. So he can get ready to wash his feet. فَقَالَ. So Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, دَعْهُمَا. Leave his khuffayn alone. He says, فَإِنِّي أَدْخَلْتَهُمَا طَاهِرَتَيْن. He said, for indeed I entered my feet into these two khufs while they were clean. فَمَسَحَ عَلَيْهُمَا. So after that, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he wiped over the khuffayn. This hadith is muttafiqun alayh. It's agreed upon by Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim. They both narrated, rather. It was narrated by Imam al-Bukhari and Imam Muslim. So there's a difference between a khuf and then we have something called a jawrab. A jawrab are like socks, if you will, socks. And it says, قال ابن منذر يروى إباحة المسح على الجوربين من تسعة من أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So Ibn Mundhir, he says that it is permissible likewise to wipe over the socks. And we found 9 of the companions of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam agreeing or affirming this. And then he mentions from them Ali ibn Abi Talib, Ammar ibn Mas'ud, Anas ibn Umar, والبراء وبلال وابن أبي عوفة والسهل بن سعد وهو قول أعطى وحسن. And he goes on. There's a whole list of names of the people of the past that used to saw the permissibility of wiping over the socks as well as the khuf. So then, that was a small introduction into wiping over the socks and the khuf. As we go into this chapter, there's a lot of detail, and if you have something to write with, it would be better. Or if you want to record it, you can. So it says al-khuf. Al-khuf, we understand that it's leather socks, right? But a more technical definition of it would be ما يلبس في القدم ساترا للمحل الفرد. Something that is used to cover your foot, and it covers the area that is considered obligatory to cover with regards to being on your foot. So then here's a question. What is obligatory to be covered on your foot? From your toes to your, up to your ankles. Where you get that from? Huh? Out of a book? So, I guess, how do we know that we're supposed to cover the foot all the way up to the ankles, and that's what's considered a khuf? How do we know that? How do we know that there's an area that must be covered on your foot? How do we know that? And where does that come from? So, for example, the definition of a khuf, the definition of a khuf, ما يلبس في القدم, something that we use to cover our foot, and it covers the area that needs to be covered. How do we know what area needs to be covered on our feet?
Whatever you have to make wudu upon.
So you have some proof for that?
Intellectual.
I mean, listen. In Islam, listen. In Islam, there's a majal for intellectual arguments, but there's also, we have text, we have all of that. But you gotta understand the rules. So the question is, what's the evidence to support that? Huh? Ahsant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and towards the end of the ayah, وَامْسَحُوا بِرَؤُوسِكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wash your feet up into your ankles. So therefore, in order for something to qualify that you can wipe over, it must cover your foot up into your ankles. And this is taken from the verse in the Quran. All right. So now that that's clear, there are 4 things that we can wipe over. 4 things. Does anyone know? Have any idea of what those 4 things are?
Khuf, sock, like you said.
All right, khuf and a sock, they fall in the same category. That counts as 1.
Your shoes.
Your shoes, that all counts as 1.
For real?
Yeah.
Your
Turban, ahsant, a turban. What else? So we have a foot. We have a foot. We have a khuf, which would include a lot of things, and we're going to talk about that. The next one we have is a turban. What else? We have 4 things. Does anyone know what they are?
For a man, or is it something different for a woman?
I mean, there is something specific for women, yes. What'd you say? A sleeve? No, not a sleeve. You looking on the internet? All right. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, so one of them is a khimar. So we have khimar for a sister, her head covering, a turban.
Is that turban?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the details later. We have a turban, we have a khimar, we have socks. And what was the last one? Did we mention it? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what the last one is? What we can wipe over? Bandage. Ahsant. Bandages. Like casts. You know, some people, they're Muslim. You still got to make wudu and you broke your arm. What are you supposed to do? You broke your leg, you broke your foot. Your foot is all covered up. What are you supposed to do? You can't take the cast off, wash it, but then what if it's an open wound? So Islam addresses all of these things. Okay? So, 3 things are similar and 1 thing is different. From the three things that are similar with regards to wiping, we have a khuf, which is a leather sock, and anything that takes that ruling, which would consist of socks, shoes. Here's a quick question. Well, before we get into it, I'm going to hold on to this one. And then the last one is the khimar. So we have khimar, al-amama, or imama, and then we have what? A khuf. Those three things take the same ruling, whereas bandages take a totally separate ruling. Those three things, they have the same conditions, whereas bandages, it has something different. And we're going to talk about that, inshallah ta'ala, as we continue. So from the conditions of wiping over a khuf, which is a leather, shoes, socks, whatever the case may be, right? Anything that goes on your foot, in order to wipe over it, it has conditions. And likewise, a imama, something that's used to wipe around your head. And we'll talk, wrap around your head, we'll talk about that. And likewise, a khimar for a sister. In order to wipe over those things, there are conditions that need to be met. And there are 5 of them. The first one is, if you have a pen to write this down, the first condition is, it must be al-hadith al-asghar. It must be hadith al-asghar. This is before we actually get in the book. This is a small summary of the chapter right now. We're going to summarize it, then we're going to go through the text, okay? The first thing is hadith al-asghar, the minor hadith, or the minor, what do we call it? Minor what? Minor impurities, ahsant. So the first condition is, it must be a minor impurity. So if you want to wipe over your socks, it has to be for a minor impurity. If you want to wipe over your imama, then it has to be for a minor impurity. If you want a sister wants to wipe over her khimar, then it has to be for what? A minor impurity. Right. The second one is yakun ta'iran or tahirun al-mamsuh. Yani, the thing that you are wiping over must be pure. You're not going to put socks on that has najasa on the socks and think you go wipe over them. And likewise, an imama. You're not going to put something on your head that is impure and think you can wipe over it. And likewise, a khimar. You're not going to put a khimar, if you're a sister, on your head and wipe over it if it's not clean, if it's najis, if it has some impurities on it. So then that's number 2. Number 3, mubah ghayru maqsoob. Yani, it has to be permissible to use that thing. So for example, if I stole his sneakers, I'm not going to use sneakers. If I stole his shoes, I can't wipe over them. If you stole his imama, it's not yours. You took it from someone else unjustly, and you wanted to use this. It's impermissible to use. If a sister stole another sister's khimar and wanted to wipe over her head with it, it's haram. You can't do that. All right? So that's number 3. Number 4, mudda muhaddada. Yani, there's a specific time period in which a person can wipe over their socks, a sister can wipe over her khimar, and a brother can wipe over his imama. There's a time limit. There's a specific time limit. And the 5th one, yulbasu ba'da kamal al-tahara. That a person does not put these items on. A person does not put these things on unless they have total purification. In other words, before I put my socks on and want to wipe over them, I have to have what? Wudu. Before I put an imama on to wipe over, I must have wudu before that. Before a sister puts on her khimar and thinks she can wipe over, she must first have wudu. Any questions about that so far? Any? The second one? The second condition? The second condition is that the thing that you're wiping over is clean. It's not dirty. And what I mean by dirty, najis. It's not impure. It doesn't have any impurities on it. Okay? Any other questions thus far? Go ahead, Sheikh.
The text you use for wiping over your feet to your ankles, you recite the verse from the Quran. What was that?
The verse was, wash your feet up until your ankles. Wash your feet up until your ankles. The same ayatul wudu. The same verse in the Quran that's used for the wudu. Wash your feet up until your ankles. Right. Any questions? All right, so then how does, and we're going to come back to this again. The cast or bandages, they differ from those 3 things in 5 different areas. How many areas? 5. So, altogether, how many things can we wipe over? How many did we say? 4 things. 3 of them are similar, and 1 of them is not similar. It's different, right? So we explained the 3 that are similar. Now we're going to talk about the one that's different. It's called a jabira. In Arabic, it's called a jabira. A jabira is like a cast, or bandages, if you will. So the first thing, how it differs from the other, from the sock, the imama, and the khimar, it differs in 5 areas. Number 1, لا يشترط لها الطهارة. In other words, it's not a condition that you put them on that you have to have tahara. Is that clear? And there's some khilaf. Because with the position of Imam Ahmed is that you must, if you're going to put bandages on, you must have purification before you put it on. And we'll talk about that later in more detail. The second one, لا يحدد بالمدة. يعني is not confined to a specific amount of time. A person may have a bandage on for a week. A person may have a cast on for a month, right? So then wiping, if you will, is not confined to a specific time period. Number 3, أنه يجب استيعابها بالمسح. If you have bandages, if you're going to wipe over them, you must wipe the entire thing, and we'll talk about that later. The 4th one, لا يجوز مسح عليها إلا عند خوف الضرر بنزعها. The only time it's permissible for a person to wipe over a bandage, the only time it's permissible to wipe over a bandage is that if you remove that bandage, it will cause you harm. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, لا ضرر ولا ضرار. And that's from one of the qawaid, al-qura, one of the 5 major maxims in the religion of Islam, that harm is removed. So it's not for a Muslim to harm him or herself. So therefore, if you remove that bandage, if it will cause a person harm, then in this case it is not permissible to remove it. Then you can actually wipe over it. The last one is وَيَمْسَحُ عَلَيْهَا فِي الطَّهَارَةِ الْكُبْرَى. If a person has sexual impurities, for example, if they are in the state of janaba. A janaba is when they're intimate with their spouse. In this case, you can still wipe over. And we'll talk about that, how to do it in detail as we continue, inshallah. Any questions thus far?
Yeah, I missed number 3.
Number 3 was that it is wajib to wipe over the whole area. It is wajib to wipe over the whole area. Can we continue? طيب. So then the Musannif, rahimahullah ta'ala, now mind you, and this is also very important, because as we go over to some of this stuff, many of you probably have positions in your head that you already know. And in fact, this may actually go against something that you already know. So don't say, oh, this is incorrect or that's incorrect. The ulama, the scholars of Islam, they differ on a lot of these issues. And this is one thing that's very important to understand. The deen is not black and white. It's not this way or that way. If it's this is wrong, no, everything is not black and white. There are some things that are black and white. There's some things that are not. Okay? So you're going to hear a lot of different positions that maybe you're unfamiliar with. But these are the positions of many of the scholars in the past. From the area of Imam Ahmed and other than them, this was the position that they had. And likewise, if you hear something, understand that there's a difference between Baba Ta'lim wa Baba Futya. Baba Ta'lim wa Baba Futya. There's a difference between the two. Right now we're learning. So if you hear something, I'm not giving you a fatwa. I'm what you consider a naqil. A naqil is the one that's giving you the positions of the ulama and explaining the text. I'm not giving anyone any fatawa. Just so that we're clear. Okay? This is not sitting for fatawa. This is just ta'lim, teaching. There's a difference. Perhaps you might find some ulama that would teach us. They will say, listen, I'm not giving fatawa here. This is just from Baba Ta'lim. We're teaching. But if you ask them what's their position, they may say something totally different than what they taught you in the class. Is that clear? Bye.
It's kind of funny for that to happen, though. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Why is it funny?
Because it would be kind of if a scholar's telling me something, and like say I hold the opinion for say I hold the opinion, I go down on my knee. This is my opinion. For me to teach to go down on your hands is kind of like why would I do that? You know what I'm saying? Like
Because of the position. Because it's people that Mumtaz. That's an excellent question. The thing is this. Respect for Ahlul Ilm is very important. Respecting the scholars of Islam is very important. Respecting the positions that they have, even if you disagree with them. Understand their adillah. Understand why they said it. They're not just speaking on their desires. This book here is a classical work in Islam. It's classic. In fact, any book that you say today that might go against this from the fiqh Imam Ahmed, rest assured, they use something from this book right here. It's very important to understand that. That's number one. Number two, to teach something doesn't necessitate that you agree with that particular position. I'm not here teaching you my positions. I'm teaching you the positions of the school of Imam Ahmed. This is a position that the scholars in the past. Who am I to hold the position? Honestly, who are you and who am I to hold the position on something that scholars that came way before us held positions on? MashaAllah. Think about that. So you think any scholar today, even though the ulama today might differ with some of this, rest assured they respect their positions. They respect the positions of the ulama that came before them. Now, a futya, malish, a fatwa, if you're asking a person to give what's the ruling on this? What do you believe to be correct here? What's your opinion? In order to be a person to have an opinion about something, you have to be on a certain level. I'm not at a level to have an opinion on some issues. Okay? To have an opinion on an issue in Islam, that means, what does that mean? What does it mean to have an opinion about something? To have an opinion about something in the religion of Islam, that means that you personally have reached a level where you have looked at all the positions in the issue, looked at all the evidence to support every position in the issue. And then you know the nasikh wa mansukh. You know the abrogated, and you know that which has been abrogated. You know the abrogator and the abrogated. You know all the rulings that are tied into every single issue, and now you're giving your opinion. MashaAllah. You have to be on a certain level to do that. None of us here are on that level. Now.
So there's a difference between having the ability to say, okay, this is what I feel is necessary for me. However, when I'm teaching,
Ahsant. Yes. For example, if I'm studying something for me personally, I might say, you know what, I feel more comfortable with this for me. Do I feel comfortable saying that to you? If I did, I would say, Sheikh such and such holds this position. That way it's not I'm not attributing anything to myself. Who am I? Who am I? I heard the brother say that. Who am I? I don't hold no status. You understand? Or I heard Sheikh bin Baz, rahimahullah, say this. I heard Sheikh Uthaymeen say this. I'm comfortable with the position of Sheikh Uthaymeen, for example. They put the work in. You just read, okay, he said this. You don't know, you may not even know the evidence that they use for that ruling. You may not even have the ability to go find it. The first key is learning Arabic. You learn Arabic, now the Sheikh said this. That's cool. But doesn't mean that you're qualified to have an opinion. And what I mean by opinion, able to give a verdict and tell somebody else, this is halal, this is haram. In fact, this is one of the problems that we have. A lot of brothers, quick to open our mouths and speak about affairs we have no knowledge of. At any event, let's get back to the text, inshallah. I don't even know how we got to that, but. So the Shaykh, rahimahullah, he starts off by saying, Yajuzu yawman wa laylatan lil muqim. It is permissible for a person to wipe over, for one day and one night if they are muqim. Do you guys know what muqim is? Muqim, it means a person that is not traveling. So then, if you're here in Philly and you're going to wipe over your socks, it's permissible for you to wipe one day and one night in this city, if you're from here, right? Wali musafirin, and as for the one that is traveling, thalathatan bi layalihinna min hadathin ba'da lubs. If a person is traveling, then they can wipe for 3 days and 3 nights. over their shoes, if you will, or their socks, that as long as they cover their ankles. With regards to, okay, we'll get to that in a minute. So then, there's two positions here. The first thing is, in order for you to wipe over something, when does the time of wiping start? When does it start? Huh? Nah. La. Right now you have socks on, right? And right now you have wudu. You put your socks on. When does your time for wiping start? When does that time start? So the sheikh says, the time of wiping over your socks or your khimar or your imama, it starts as soon as you break your wudu. Is that correct? Does anyone know? Do you ever wipe over your socks?
I start counting from the time I made wudu.
Okay. Now.
So we dealing within one day, one night.
Yeah. Anytime. Whether you're traveling or you're stationary. When can you wipe over your socks? When does it start? When does the time start? Remember, we said if a person is stationary or muqim, you can wipe for 1 day and 1 night. If a person is traveling, you have 3 days and 3 nights to wipe over your socks. When does that time start?
When you pure. When you pure.
When you made wudu.
When you first make wudu and put your socks on? La. Ghayru sahih. Oh, the first time you wipe. Okay, so the brother says the first time you wipe over your socks. You say from the first time you break your wudu. All right, so Imam Ahmed, they have two positions on this issue. One position is as soon as you break your wudu. As it mentions here, min hadathin ba'da lubsi. As soon as a person breaks their wudu. Right? As soon as a person breaks their wudu. And that is a position. It's a strong position. However, there's a position that many other scholars from the past use that is stronger with many of them, and that is as soon as you make your first wipe. So there are two positions. One position is as soon as you break your wudu, as soon as you go to the bathroom, at that point in time, you have 1 day and 1 night from that point in time to wipe over your socks. Okay? What if a person is asleep? You have your socks on, your feet are clean, you put your socks on, you're walking around, you don't use the bathroom, you fall asleep at 8 o'clock and wake up at 12. What time does the wiping start? Huh? It starts at 12 o'clock. Starts at 12 o'clock. Okay? Is that clear? Now, if you test, that's the position if we use the position that it goes with as soon as you break your wudu. Whereas the other position is a person can break his wudu, but it starts as soon as he makes wudu by wiping over. That's when the time starts. And this is the position of many ulama. Many. All right? Whichever one you choose to follow is up to you. I'm just putting that out. Great. So the next thing. In order for something to be permissible to wipe over, it must be ala tahirin mubahin. The thing that you're wiping over, either your socks, they must be purified from any impurities, or your shoes, they must be free from any impurities, and it must be mubah, it cannot be stolen. You cannot steal socks and put them on and think you can wipe over them, because wiping is a rukhsa, it's a pass, it's something to make something easy for you. You can't have something easy by doing something impermissible. Okay? So then, you cannot steal someone's shoes and think you can wipe over them. So then it has to be pure. It has to be mubah, permissible for you to use it. It must be satiran lil mafrood. It must cover the area that it needs to cover. Question. If I have shoes on, can I wipe over my shoes? Yes or no? I've seen many people here. In fact, it's a phenomenon. I've seen many people here wipe over their sneakers. Can you wipe over your sneakers?
Yes.
You can. MashaAllah. Right. What do the sneakers have to look like in order to wipe over them?
You have to come over the ankle. Right. The sock has to go over the ankle, and the sneakers over the sock.
Mumtaz, you already said?
That's the hawk.
Is it the hawk?
It sounds very
Listen to what he just said. Listen to what he said. He said, you have socks on, right? We already know you can wipe over your socks. Then he said you put your sneakers on over your socks. Even if your sneakers don't cover your ankles, you can wipe over them because your socks cover your ankles, right? لا هذا غير صحيح. خطأ. In order for you to wipe over anything, if you go back to when we first started, I gave you 5 conditions to wipe over anything. Sah? 5 conditions. What were those 5 conditions? Who remembers? Minor impurities. What else?
It itself must be
All right. What else?
rightfully obtained
Right.
within the time frame.
Uh-huh.
And you must be pure before you place them on.
Nah, you missed something.
And it must be permissible.
Must cover your ankle.
It must cover the area that is necessary to cover. Did we mention that? We didn't mention that. We did. All right. So it must cover the area that it needs to cover. A sneaker that doesn't cover your ankles. Ask yourself these questions. Why would it be permissible to wipe over sneakers that don't cover your, or sneakers, tennis shoes, whatever you call them, boots, anything that goes on your foot? In order for you to wipe over them, they must fulfill what? Must fulfill the conditions. So one of them is that they must what? They must cover the area that needs to be washed if you're making wudu. It must cover the area that needs to be washed if you were to make wudu. So your shoes, if your shoes don't cover your ankles, how is it permissible to wipe over them? Does that make sense? Did I lose anybody?
So you gotta wear basketball sneakers.
You got to have some basketball sneaks, some boots on or something like that.
Or you have to remove the
Or you have to remove them. But right now we're talking about wiping. Yes, or you have to remove them to wipe over it. But so another condition from these things to wipe over is it has to يَثْبُتُ بِنَفْسِهِ مِنْ خُفٍ وَجَوْرَبٍ صَفِيقٍ وَنَحْوِهِمَا. That it must be able to hold up by itself. So for example, if a person has on some socks, right? The socks that he or she has on, they're not very stable. They're not strong. To the point if you walk, they're so loose that if you walk, it'll fall down past your ankles. You can't wipe over those socks. Or if a person has shoes on, and the shoes are hanging, you ever see people walk around, the shoes not tied up? So when they start walking, you see their feet coming out. You can't wipe over shoes like that unless they're tied up on your foot. Why is that? Why can't you wipe over them? Because when you're walking, a piece of an area that needs to be covered is exposed. A piece of an area, meaning your ankle or part of your foot, which needs to be covered, it becomes exposed. Once it's exposed, that ruling is negated from you from wiping over them. Now,
I got a question. Let's say you walk, you take a wudu, you put your boot on. But later on you remove your boot. And you lose your wudu. You put your boot on, you still cannot wipe over it because you take it off already, right? You understand what I'm saying?
ask again, please.
Okay, let's say I'm here sitting in the masjid, like I got my boot on.
You have your boots on in the masjid. طيب.
And I take it off, put it aside, and I lose my wudu.
How do you lose it?
I mean, I'm reminded of purity.
Okay.
Okay, so I put my boot on again, go to the bathroom. I cannot wipe over it because I removed already, right?
Yes. Wait. Let me make sure I understood you right.
You have socks on.
You have socks on. You have your boots on. And you're sitting in the masjid. And you take your boots off. And you break your wudu.
Yeah, I put the boot on.
Then you put your boots back on. You want to wipe over your boots.
Right,
No.
right. That's what
No, you can't.
So it's like if you make wudu over your boots, the shoes you have on is above your ankles, right? So you wipe over them. But when it's time to pray, you take them off.
We'll talk about that towards the end. You're going to talk about that towards the end. Because that's another issue of a lot of differing among the ulama. And we'll talk about that inshallah. All right, so up until this point, are we clear? So can you wipe over ankle socks? Huh?
If it covers your ankles, yeah.
If it covers your ankles, yes. Good. So you can wipe over your ankle socks as long as they what? Cover your ankles. What's the proof again that they have to cover your ankles?
That's what Quran.
Because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ إِلَى الْكَعْبَيْنِ. Wash your feet up into your ankles. Okay? طيب. The next issue here, so we're finished the khuf, right? We said that there are 4 things we can wipe over. What are those 4 things again? Khimar, the turban, your socks or shoes, and the bandages. So far we just finished one. One was what? The one we just finished was what? The khuf. The khuf. Now we're going to move on to the imama. The imama. What is the imama? Imama is something that, it's a turban. But what type of turban? Many of the brothers here, we don't see people here wearing turbans like that. But if we go to Sudan, many brothers from Sudan, you'll find many of them, the turban that wraps around your head like this, all the way around, right? All right, so this type of turban, they have 2 types. Either it wraps around your head and comes under your neck, right? Wraps around your head like this and then goes under your neck. You can wipe over this type of turban. Likewise, if it goes around your head so much so that there's a tail in the back, you can wipe over that as well. We don't find them common here. I don't have it.
You can't wipe over the Emirati, you know how they do in the Emirats, how they wrap in the Emirats.
Perhaps. As long as it's covered most of the head and it wraps around, and if it covers, listen, now I know what he's talking about. As long as it covers underneath the neck, or it has a tail, but it can't be the one. It can't be the one that goes on your head like a kufi, because there's some that wrap like this and you pull it off just like a kufi. Yeah, like some. You understand what I'm saying? We're not talking about those. We're talking about the ones that actually wraps around. If you take it off, it's going to be messed up, and it's going to be difficult to wrap it back up and put it back on. طيب. وعلى خمر النساء. And likewise, the women can wipe over their head coverings. They can wipe over their head covering. مدارة تحت حلقهن. Yani, what this means is, a woman can wipe over her khimar with a hadith al-asghar, with a minor impurity. However, the khimar is supposed to cover her hair down to underneath her chin. This is the one that is permissible to wipe over. Not for a woman that, say for example, we have some Muslim women from certain countries, they might just have something over their head like this. Not wrapped up or just over their head like the way people wear a gutra or shimar. You can't wipe over this type of khimar. You have to wipe your head. But as long as you wrap it up all the way and it covers the way it's supposed to, in this case, then she can wipe as long as it is a minor impurity. As long as it's a minor impurity. طيب. So now we finished the... Now. Yes, the same ruling with the feet, with the socks. Remember, we said that the 3 things that we wipe over, they take the same ruling in general. And that is, in order for you to wipe over your socks, you must enter your feet in them while they are clean, pure, from wudu. Same thing with the imama, same thing with the khimar. Okay? طيب. ولا يمسح القلانسة. القلانسة, as many scholars mention, it's like a kufi, like this on my head here. I can't wipe over this. I can't wipe over this. Any brothers wear this, you can't wipe over. Okay? وَلَا لِفَافَةً. And likewise, you can't wipe over a wrap. Say, for example, you wrap your foot up with like a bandage, not even a bandage, you're just wrapping them up or something. You can't wipe over a wrap. You only can wipe over something that is considered a jorab, a shoe, or anything like that that's specific for the foot. You can't wipe over wraps. Okay? Well, this is something that's not common, but it talks about it. وَلَا مَا يَسْقُطُ مِنَ الْقَدَمِ أَوْ يُرَى مِنْهُ بَعْضُهُ. And likewise, as we mentioned before, if a person has boots or shoes that you can generally wipe over, but they're not tied properly. So when you walk, your foot comes out, right? The fact is, the reason why you can't wipe over them is because your foot came out, and that which needs to be covered in order to wipe is now exposed. For example, your ankles. Does that make sense? Huh? All right. فإن لبس خفا على خف قبل الحدث فالحكم للفوقاني. Say, for example, a person has socks on, and then you put your socks on and you're pure. You have wudu. You put your socks on. Then you put your shoes on over top, or you put another pair of socks on over top of it. The ruling goes with the one that's on the top, meaning the outer layer, if you're going to wipe over. Okay? طيب. ويمسح أكثر إمامة وظاهر قدم الخف من أصابعه إلى ساقه دون أسفله وعقبه. When it comes to wiping the imama, there are rules with regards to wiping the imama. But I skipped a part here. Let me back up. Because I'm wondering, wait a minute, we're moving too fast. We'll get back to that in a second. The one we missed here was جبيرة لم تتجاوز قدر الحاجة. So when we stopped here with the khimar, right after the khimar, we're going to discuss the bandages. How we're supposed to wipe over bandages. Bandages are explained in different ways. In order to wipe over something with a bandage, there are conditions. Does anyone know what those conditions are? Does anyone know what the conditions are in order to wipe over something? There are two conditions. Number one, لا يتجاوز قدر الحاجة. So let's come up with an example. We're going to stick with this example throughout so that it makes sense, okay? Right now, a person broke their arm. Okay? If a person broke their arm, let's say they broke their arm here. Okay? It's broken. Or they broke their wrist and they have a cast on. So the cast is covering part of his hand up into maybe his forearm right here. Are you with me? The hand is covering his whole hand up into the elbow. Let's say the elbow. Okay? Now, in order to wipe over this, there are two conditions. The first condition is that when you wipe over it, it can only cover the area that needs to be covered. For example, if the injury is here, but the cast goes all the way up to your elbow, you have to ask yourself a question. And this goes back to doctors. This goes back to the people of knowledge in that field, which are doctors. So if they say that the cast needs to be from here up to here in order for this to heal correctly, then it's considered correct. If they say, well, it doesn't have to be this high, it's really only supposed to be here, but they did it there this long, this much, just because. So your option now is see if you can remove it somewhat so that it just covers the area that it needs to be covered. Are we clear? All right. That's one thing. So then, لا يتجاوز قدر الحاجة. In other words, if it extends, so the condition is that if you have a cast or a bandage on, it needs to cover the area of necessity. It can't go beyond that. That's number one. Number two, and يلبس إلا على كمال الطهارة. When you put this on, in order to wipe over it, this is a statement of many of the scholars of the past. In order to put this on, you must put it on while you already have full tahara. You should be in a full state of purity. Right. Question though, that's almost impossible. No one plans to break their arm. All right? But this is out of respect for the ulama in the past, you have to understand this is what they spoke about. And there's a reason behind it, and they're going to explain it. They're not just saying this just to say it. We're going to get to why are they saying that it has to be so on and so forth, okay? All right. So are we clear on this so far? There are two conditions in order to wipe over a bandage. What are they? Does anyone know? I mentioned two conditions. Huh?
It covers the area that needs to be covered.
That it covers the area that needs to be covered. And then you have to be in a state of purification when you put the bandage on. All right. إذا توفرت الشروط. If all of the conditions are met, then in this point in time, it's permissible to wipe over this area. And if you're going to wipe over it when making wudu, you must wipe over the whole area, the whole thing. All right? Is that clear? Like,
Wipe over the whole bandage.
the whole band, wipe over. So that when it comes to the jabira, in Arabic, the jabira is bandages. When it comes to bandages, there are 4 ways of looking at it. How many ways? 4 ways. Number 1, if all of the conditions are met, which are the 2 that we just mentioned, then it is permissible to wipe over them, to wipe over it. Okay? Number 2, إذا اختل أحد الشرطين, if one of the conditions are missing, meaning the first condition. In other words, the doctor said it only should be here. The cast should only be right here, but he made it all the way up here in my arm. What do I do? If it's only supposed to be up to here, but it covers all the way up to here, and if I'm making wudu, I would have to wash up until my elbow, right? So what do I do? Huh? So we're going to get to it. So example would be, as we just mentioned, what do you do? So some of the ulama, they mention that the area that's covered, that is obligatory to cover, say for example, the hand all the way up until here. For this part, you wipe over all of it up until that point. For this part here, that goes all the way up to here, where you're missing a piece of your elbow, some of them say tayammum. You make tayammum for that area there. What is tayammum? Tayammum is dry ablution. What does that mean? You hit the ground with 2 hands, you wipe your hands and wipe your face. Okay? Are we clear? Bite. The third one, that's if you're missing the first condition. The third condition, the third picture of using bandages, إذا اختل الشرط الثاني, if the last condition is not met. What does that mean? A person was, whatever happened, he used the bathroom and he slipped and fell, broke his arm. Now he has to put the cast on, but he doesn't have what? Wudu. He or she does not have wudu. So now what? In this case, you cannot wipe over it at all. So if you can't wipe over it, what do? You make tayammum.
Over that part?
Over that part. So when you're going to wash, every other part of your body you can wash. But when it comes to this here, you're going to make tayammum for the area that you can't wipe.
Over the bandage?
You don't make tayammum over bandage.
On your skin?
Yeah, make tayammum your hands and your face.
Oh,
That's tayammum.
so you make tayammum?
You understand?
Then you go back and do the tayammum.
Huh?
You make the wudu first and then go back and make tayammum.
Or, now that's another difference. Do you do it in the beginning? Do you do it towards the end? That's a whole nother conversation.
So where we at so far?
Right now, we're at the area, we're on the third condition here. If the second condition is removed, and that is if a person has a bandage on without being in complete state of wudu or purification. At that point in time, that person is to do what? Make tayammum. Okay?
So it's no washing of the mouth and everything like that?
Yes, you're still washing. You're still going to make wudu up until the areas you can make wudu. But for this arm, you can't wipe over it. So what are you going to do? You have to make tayammum. Yeah.
The question is before, you got to tell them before the wudu or after the wudu.
What, when you fall? What did you say?
The question is before the wudu or after the wudu.
When you make tayammum before or after? The ulama differ. There's a difference of opinion on that. On when you actually make wudu. Some say you make to the end to make tayammum. Some say... Right. So the fourth one. So we have 3 pictures. We gave 3 scenarios thus far, and now we're going into the fourth one. The fourth scenario is if both conditions are removed. For example, the cast is all the way up here when it's only supposed to be here. The small area, but it goes all the way up. All right, that's one area. The next area is you didn't put it on if you have purification. What do? You make tayammum. You make what? Tayammum. Now, if you read some of the ulama, like Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, they say you're not supposed to combine between washing and wiping and make tayammum at the same time. Many of the ulama, they differ with that, but this is a position that's established. And what do I mean when I say a position that's established? When I say a position that's established, that means it's respected by the Salaf. That means if you decide to take this position, no one's going, oh, brother, this is bid'ah. No. We have people that preceded you that are better than you that said it was okay. And no one said it was incorrect. And whoever did it was this, this, and this. You understand? This is important to note. This is important to note, especially when it comes to issues, rulings in a religion. Be careful, and open up your mouth and speak about Allah's deen with no knowledge.
So what you're saying, there's other ulama that follow that opinion.
Say again?
There's other ulama that follows that opinion.
Yeah, definitely. If it wasn't, if there weren't ulama that followed that opinion, it wouldn't be mentioned. Right?
That's what gives it
The validity, ahsant. Okay? Is that clear? طيب. So then, back to the text. So he says here, وَالْجَبِيرَةً لَمْ تَتَجَاوَزْ قَدْرَ الْحَاجَةِ. The bandage does not exceed the limits that it's supposed to cover. That's clear. The bandage is supposed to, if it's up to here, then that's where it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to exceed the limits in order to wipe over it. Okay? وَلَوْ فِي أَكْبَرْ إِلَى حَلِّهَا. Even if a person has with them حدث الأكبر. So, for example, if a person's in a state of sexual impurity, if you will, from intimacy, that person can still wipe over it. Still wipe over it. Yes, you don't have no choice. What else can you do? إِلَى حَلِّهَا. And it ends, that time period ends when that person is cured from whatever that injury he or she may have. Is that clear? طيب. وَإِذَا لَبِسَ ذَلِكَ بَعْدَ كَمَالَ الطَّهَارَةِ. And they're saying that a person can do this as long as they put on the bandage after they have pure wudu. Like we already mentioned, just repeating it in the text. طيب. وَمَنْ مَسَحَ. The next issue. So, right now we covered the issues of all of the wipings, what you can wipe over. From the khuf, the socks, so on and so forth, the imama, the khimar for the sisters, and we just covered the bandages. The next issue is, we spoke about the time periods, right? All right, so then, وَمَنْ مَسَحَ فِي سَفَرٍ ثُمَّ أَقَامَ أو عكس أو شك في ابتدائه فمسح مقيم. Here's the thing. Right now, I'm traveling. فَمَنْ مَسَحَ فِي سَفَرٍ. If I'm right now, I'm in Florida, or I'm in DC right now, for example. Right now, we're in DC. And we're traveling. We have socks on. We're wiping over our socks. We travel back to Philly. We still get in Philly in time. Then you have to wipe as if you are stationary, not as if you are traveling. Is that clear?
Say that one more time.
Right now we're traveling. We're in DC and we're coming to Philly. It's Dhuhr. We wipe for Dhuhr. By the time we get to Philly, it's Maghrib or Isha. You can still wipe, but that wipe is only for that day. So you still only get 1 day's worth, not a traveler's wipe. A traveler's wipe is 3 days and 3 nights. All right, the same thing if a person is stationary. You start off wiping like as if you are home stationary, and then you travel, you still wipe as if you are stationary. Is that clear? Because what? No. Because, so the ulama, they mentioned the qaida here. The principle is إِذَا اجْتَمَعَ السَّفَرُ وَالْحَضَرُ تُجَنِّبُ أَحْوَطِ. If a person combines between traveling and not traveling, then the safest thing for them to do is take the position of the one that is stationary. It's safest to do that. Likewise, if a person, say for example, if the salat is in. Right now it's Salat al-Dhuhr, for example. And they call the adhan here in Philly for Salat al-Dhuhr, and we travel without praying. We travel without praying, and then we arrive at our location, it's Salat al-Asr. You still have to pray 4 raka'at for Dhuhr, and you can pray 2 raka'at for Asr. Why is that? Because when you were in your home, the Salat came in and you didn't pray. So you still take that ruling as if you were present for that Salat because you were. We'll talk about that when we go to Kitab al-Salat, but I wanted to mention that. طيب. وإن أحدث ثم سافر قبل مسحه فمسح مسافر. Likewise, if a person, and this is opposite from this, and this is because for this ruling right here, there's an ijma', a scholarly consensus that this here is permissible. And what this issue here is, if a person, right now we didn't travel yet. We're getting ready to get in the car and we're getting ready to go travel. Someone uses the bathroom. All right? They didn't make wudu yet. They used the bathroom, got in the car, and started to go. At this point in time, what do they do? It says, "Man ahdatha," whoever breaks their wudu, thumma safara, qabla al-masihi. So he decided to travel before making wudu to wipe over his socks or whatever. فَمَسْحُ musafir. Then that person still wipes as if he is traveling. Why is that? Why? Because that seems to be different from what we spoke about before. This is because this particular issue, there's a ijma', there's a scholarly consensus on the permissibility of this right here. This situation right here. And the more you study, you're going to come across little situations that might seem to go against what everything else was. And there's all dalil for everything, but if we were to speak about all the evidence to support everything, we would be in this book forever. So for the most part, we'll mention it. We'll mention some of the statements of the ulama of the past. We'll mention some adillah here and there, and we'll keep moving. طيب. وَلَا يَمْسَحُ قَلَانِسْ وَلَا لِفَافَ. And we already spoke about that. The kufi, so on and so forth, and wrapping your foot. And then we spoke about if a person has a shoe on and his foot comes out slightly, you cannot wipe over that as well. فَإِنْ لَبِسَ خُفًّا عَلَى خُفٍّ. And we also spoke about wearing socks and having something on over top of them. Like, for example, you have your socks, you put your shoes on, then you wipe over the thing that is the topmost. You can wipe over that. We already spoke about that, right? As long as it covers your ankles. As long as it covers your ankles, right? The next one is, وَيُمْسَحُ أَكْثَرُ إِمَامَةَ وَظَاهِرَ قَدَمِ الْخُفِّ. Now, we're going to talk about how do we wipe. That's important, right? But if a person has an imamah, a person should wipe over majority of the imamah, not almost the whole thing. You have to wipe over all of it, or if not, most of it. Most of the imamah. What is the imamah again? A turban. What about the turbans that look like a kufi? You can just take them off and put them on. Can we wipe over those? La. It must be the one that wraps around and covers underneath your neck, or wraps around and so much so that there's a tail in the back. Okay? No, I've seen some. What? طيب. وظاهر قدم الخف من أصابعه إلى ساقه دون أسفله وعقبه. If a person wants to wipe over their khuf, then he or she should wipe over the front, from their toes up into their leg. Not their leg, but like towards the end of their foot. So from the front of their foot all the way up. Not all the way up your leg. Yeah, like that. Huh? Past your ankle, like to the beginning of your sock. A sock is your leg right here. So you're going to wipe from here like that. All right? So there are reports that the Prophet ﷺ, he used his right hand for his right foot and his left hand for his left foot. There are reports that, you could do them both with both your hands at the same time. And there's some of the ulama say it doesn't matter. You can do it one foot at a time and the other foot at another time. Not at different times, meaning separate times, but, wipe it like this. Is that clear? طيب. You should use your right hand for your right foot, your left hand for your left foot. I haven't read any prohibition from using one hand to do both. I haven't read any. It doesn't mean that there isn't. I just haven't come across it. طيب. وعلى جميع الجبيرة. And if a person is wiping over a bandage or a cast, then you are to wipe the whole thing. You're supposed to wipe the whole thing if you're wiping over it. And the next issue here is an issue of tremendous khilaf from some of the ulama. And we're going to talk about that, inshallah. This is the last thing that we're going to cover, inshallah ta'ala. Here, Shaykh Rahimahullah, he says, وَمَتَى ظَهَرَ بَعْضُ مَحَلَّ الْفَرْضِ بعد الحدث أو تمت مدة استأنف الطهارة. Say for example, a person has socks on, right? You have your socks on, and say for example, you broke your wudu. You broke your wudu. You have your socks on. Your plan is to wipe over your socks. But you know what? You're scratching your foot. Say you're scratching your foot, and then you go inside your sock and you scratch your foot so much that a piece of your ankle comes out. At that point in time, you can't wipe over them anymore. No, if it becomes exposed. If a piece of it becomes exposed, you can't wipe anymore. And likewise, if the time runs out, say for example, you wiped yesterday at Maghrib, and you good. Right before Maghrib today, you still fresh from that wipe. As soon as Maghrib comes in at this time, for example, according to Imam al-Hajjawi, this breaks your wudu, and you have to take your socks off and wipe over. Yes. Yes. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So I wanted to save this for last because when we were in school, this was the issue that many of the students used to debate about all the time. Wiping over your socks and taking your socks off. Do you still have wudu, yes or no? And so I'm going to mention some of the positions of the scholars of the past on these issues. And then we're going to mention some modern scholars today in their positions on these issues. And looking at some of the things that they use to come up with these particular issues. ذهب جماهير الأمة ومنهم أئمة أربعة. So first of all, many of the scholars of Al-Islam, the majority of the ulama of Al-Islam, past and present, holds the position. If you put your socks on and your feet are pure, you're clean, you're in a state of purity, and then you put your socks on and you wipe over them, you have wudu, right? But as soon as you take those socks off, you break your wudu. This is the position of the majority of the Salaf and Khalaf. Majority of the scholars of the past all the way up until today. So, as mentioned, the majority of the scholars of Al-Islam, they say that if a person takes their khuf off, it affects their wudu. It affects their purification in their prayer. This is the position of Abu Hanifa, Imam Malik, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmed, ومنهم النخعي وإمام الزهري ومكحول وإسحاق بن راهويه وإمام الأوزاعي. And from the scholars that are modern that hold this position, that is well known to most people, is the Sheikh bin Baz rahimahullah ta'ala. Them and many, yes.
I understand this problem. It's like when I take a wudu now, put my socks on.
Right now you make wudu. Right, let me explain the issue so you understand. Right now, you go make wudu. And when you make wudu by wiping over your socks. Right now you can pray, right? It's permissible to wipe over your socks.
Yeah.
As long as you put your socks on and your feet are clean, you're in a state of purification. Sah? We're here. So then you put your socks on. Okay? And you wipe over your socks. You're good. Right or wrong? Did I lose anybody yet? All right. So now you have your socks on. You come in the masjid, you say, you know what? I don't feel like praying with my socks on. You take your socks off. Many of the ulama hold the position that this breaks your wudu. You can't pray like that. Yes?
Let me ask you a question to see if I can clarify. Say your niyat is to put a pair of socks on. You make your wudu, you're pure. Your feet is clean and everything. And you put your socks on. Do you have to wipe over your socks when you put your socks on?
No.
Okay. See, that's what I'm thinking he's missing. You don't like.
No.
Okay.
No. You don't have to wipe over your socks until you break your wudu. So what I'm saying is once you break your wudu and you wipe over your socks, once you take them off, it breaks your wudu.
Okay.
That's the position. Okay. That's the position of the majority of the scholars of Al-Islam.
It breaks your wudu to the point where you can't wipe it.
You can't wipe over. It means some of them say Now the difference of opinion now comes in. Some of them say you have to redo your whole wudu all over again. Those are the ones that hold the position of mu'alat. Mu'alat means you must do one step at a time throughout your wudu. In other words, you have to go from step, and one body part can't dry before you get to the other one. Some of them hold the position, no, you just wash your feet. But all of them agree, majority of them agree that it affects your purification. You cannot pray like that in that state. Now, once you take your socks off, you need to do something. Either A, make wudu, if that's the position you or wash your feet, or to the end of it.
Even if you don't break your wudu.
Nah, it's only if you break your wudu. Yeah, that's good. That's why you asked. Only if you. So this is why I said you understand. Let's go back. Let's back up a little bit. Right now, you woke up in the morning, you got in the shower, you clean. You get out, put some socks on. You're good. All right? You go to the bathroom. You run to the bathroom. You finish using the bathroom. Now you're making wudu. And now you're wiping over your socks. Now you have wudu by way of wiping over your socks. As soon as you take those socks off before the time period, many of the scholars of Al-Islam say this affects your wudu. Is that clear? So they differ. How does this affect it? Some of them say you have to make your wudu all over again based on the ayat of muwalat, based on the shurut of wudu, from the conditions of wudu that we took last week, that they have to be in order. All right? So once you took your socks off, you have to wash your feet. Some of them say you have to make wudu all over again. Some of them say, la, you just have to wash your feet. In any event, it does affect your wudu. This is the position of the majority of the scholars of Al-Islam. Now, after you broke, no. And if you want to put them back on, you have to make wudu again, wash your feet, then put them back on.
Okay, so this is my question. Make a complete wudu with my socks on. Right? I stop putting wudu over my socks. Right? Now I'm in wudu. I take the socks off. I have to do something. I won't be able to put the socks back on.
Did you break your wudu before you took the socks off?
Yeah.
So,
But my question is, I break the wudu, and then I make the wudu over the socks. Right?
so you break wudu, and then you make wudu by wiping over the socks. You're good right now.
So now, once I take the socks off, right?
Mm-hmm.
That affects the wudu.
Yes.
Whether I break it.
Yes. What do you mean whether you break? You already broke it.
What I'm saying is
Right now, are you saying, listen. Are you saying, let me make sure I understand you. Are you saying that once you have your socks on and you wiped over them from a hadith, you already used the bathroom and you wiped over your socks. Right now you're in wudu. So the ulama are saying that if you take those socks off, this affects your wudu. Okay?
Yeah, but are you also saying if you was in a state of purity and you put your socks on and you didn't break your wudu, but you took your socks off, you still in wudu?
Yeah, it doesn't affect anything. It only affects the wiping.
Right.
Okay? Once you start the process of wiping, then it affects what was going on underneath.
All right, so like the brother saying. So I broke my wudu. I got my socks on. I was pure before. So I wiped over my socks. I'm in wudu. It's time to make maghrib. I'm in wudu. My feet hot. So I take my socks off. Before y'all pray, I gotta go make wudu again.
Yes, that's the position of the majority of the scholars of Islam. Majority. Some of them say make wudu again. Some of them say just wash your feet. It may sound strange. It affects something. I just mentioned the whole list of ulama that hold that position. You want me to mention that list again? Oh, all right.
But who's in contrary to that?
Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'm going to mention some of those that are in contrary too.
So the ones that are contrary saying that I can pray.
Yes, the ones that are in contrary, they hold the position that as long as you didn't break your wudu, then you good. And there's a lot.
But you can't wipe back over.
No, because you took them off. No. طيب. All right. So then, القول الثاني, the second position, was held by Hassan al-Basri, Sulaiman ibn Harb, Dawood al-Zahiri, that he's called, or Ibn Hazm, or likewise Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and others. They hold the position that once you take the socks off, it doesn't affect your wudu. And some of the scholars some of the modern day ulama that hold this position, Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah, and likewise Sheikh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala. I see you smiling now. All right? They hold the position that if you take the socks off, it doesn't break your wudu. But I'll say this, as one of our mashayikh, Sheikh Abdul Majid al-Subayy, rahimahullah, hafidhullah, may Allah preserve him, he said to us one day, when he said, "Al-khuruj min al-khilaf awla," staying away from the differences of opinion. There's no difference of opinion if you take your socks off, you make wudu, you don't have wudu. So his thing was, why would you put yourself in a position where majority of the scholars of the past hold this to be impermissible, but why would you want to take that chance? Go by that which is safest. That's one thing. Another one day we were sitting with one of the qadat, one of the judges in Mecca. We were talking about issues about the fiqh of the salaf and how you understand the fiqh of the salaf. And so he told us, he said, when you look at some of those names of the past who held these positions, you look at yourself and say, I'm not that comfortable going against these mountains of the religion. I'm not that comfortable going against these mountains of the religion. At any event, the ones that hold that position, as we mentioned, they use the position like Ibn Hazm, rahimahullah. He says, if a person, that's like a person cutting their hair. If a person wipes over their head and then they cut their hair, do they got to make wudu again? No. Then they mention if a person washes their hands but they cut their nails, does it mean they have to make wudu again, and so on and so forth? So they hold this position to be weak. Some of them hold this position to be weak. But like I mentioned, majority of the ulama of al-Islam, salafan wa khalafan, majority of the scholars of the past, hold the position that if a person wipes over their socks while they have the state of wudu and then removes them after they use the bathroom and wipe over, again, the majority of the scholars of al-Islam in the past, they hold the position. If a person makes wudu after using the bathroom, they make wudu and they wipe over their socks, as soon as they remove their socks, majority of the scholars of the past hold the position that this affects their wudu. Now,
when you have wudu and you wear the socks, right, you didn't break it by wiping it, then you take it out. What is that position?
say that again.
You have wudu.
I have wudu.
Yeah, then you wear the socks.
And then I have wudu and then I put my socks on. And then you take your socks off?
Yes.
That doesn't affect anything. You still have wudu. Remember, the issue here has to do with wiping. Not just putting socks on, it has to do with wiping. If you wiped over your socks at any point in time, then you want to take them off, that's the issue. As long as the time period didn't end. Remember, if a person is not traveling, then they can have their socks on for 1 day and 1 night. And if a person is traveling, then they are to have their socks or shoes on that cover their ankles for 3 days and 3 nights. Well, any questions about that? No questions? Huh?
Maybe other people, the amount of water. You know what I'm saying? Like,
The amount of water for what?
Like to wipe over your socks. Like, I mean,
It's just a wipe.
soak them joints. Like,
No, we're not. I've never seen that.
Yeah, people just like
You wash your feet and wipe your socks. You wipe over your socks. You wipe over your socks. You don't wash your socks, man. And then you're going to walk around with soggy feet, man. That's not the move.
I mean, just like some people wipe over the bottom of their socks. Like,
Nah.
some people wipe,
There's a author of Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiallahu ta'ala an. He said, لو كان دين بالرأي لمسحنا أسفله دون فوق, or كما قال. He said, if the deen was based on your opinion, a person would wipe the bottom of their socks as opposed to the top, over on the front of their feet. It makes sense. Well, I'm walking on the ground, so I need to clean the bottom instead of the top. Huh? طيب, any questions about this? Allah Ta'ala alam. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك